Geico presents Our Town, Season 4, a 30-minute podcast produced by Best Bark Communications, a small but fierce client-centered marketing company powered by decades of experience and well-established business networks. Geico, 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. Now, here's your host, Andy Ockershausen.
This is Our Town. This is Andy Ockershausen. And what a pleasure, what a extreme happiness for Janice and I to be with the original WMAL Swingman. Mm-hmm. And we called him the Swingman because he could swing on every show on WMAL. John Lyon, welcome to Our Town.
Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to this.
I first remember that people said it's not Lyons.
That's right.
John Lyon. And when he came, I was at WMAL. I've been there so long, I was part of the furniture or the fixtures. When John first came as a young man, but he left as an old man. But he never really left. I'm sure he's got WMAL in his heart.
Oh, sure.
Like we all do, John.
I came here in 1967, auditioned after 3 years at a station in Peoria, a CBS station there. And the odd thing about that was the guy that I replaced in Peoria was the same guy I replaced here. I'd been there 3 years, and I said to the boss, his name is Bob Beneke. I don't know if you remember.
I remember the name, absolutely.
Bob Beneke, and he left here. He got out of the business. He went into some financial dealings and stuff.
Well, you were hired as an announcer, correct?
I was hired.
Not as a talent, not as a performer, but as an announcer.
I'm not sure now.
Well, Jack Weaver and Frank started as announcers on WMAL.
We had a TV audition. It was on Channel 7 audition.
Yeah.
And Frank Ford maybe was the director.
He's our guy.
And it was me and like 6 other guys for this audition. And I had to borrow some dough to come out here. I had to borrow money to come out here. Because I had 4 kids back in Peoria, and I said to the boss, look, I've been here 2 or 3 years now. I'm kind of getting to the end of the scale, you know. I said, is there any chance you can give me some more dough? No, that's it. He said, you've come to the end of the road. He said, this is how we kind of do it here. We're a medium-sized market.
It's a market price.
We got a chance to do a lot of stuff there, did TV, nighttime radio program. And he says, I said, well, okay, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to start looking for work. He says, okay, good luck. So I put audition tapes out to all the stations where I thought I could fit in. Mainly in the Midwest, because that's where I was.
Certainly.
So I went to WGN Chicago, WCCO Minneapolis, KMOX St. Louis, WLW Cincinnati, because I thought, I know these stations, and I think I could work there. Well, I didn't hear anything from any of them. And somehow a tape ended up out here in Washington, D.C. I had no idea where Washington, D.C. was. I said, point to the east and keep going, you know. So that's what I did, and I think it was Harold Green called me, and he said, we're going to have auditions on whatever the date was. I said, I'll be there. So I made arrangements, and I went and got a few bucks together and came out here. And
Were you married?
Oh, sure. Oh, I had 4 kids.
Married. Oh, that's right, the babies were all
4
born.
kids,
okay.
Yeah. And so I came out for the audition. We did a TV audition in which we stood in front of a camera down at Channel 7, read a couple of commercials, ad-libbed of whatever we could think of, you know. And then after nobody said anything. Nobody said, you got the job, we'll call you, nothing. Goodbye. It's over. So I got on a plane and went back. And I didn't hear anything for the longest time. I mean, like 3 weeks.
Wow.
4, and I'm thinking, they forgot about me or I'm dead on this deal. So I called, and I forget who I talked to. It may have been Frank. It may have been Harold Green. I don't think it was him, though. And they said, well, wait a minute. We'll get back to you. I said, oh, okay.
You've heard that before.
So I'm ready to, go tuck it in somewhere. So it wasn't too long after that I got a phone call, and I forget who told me, but they said, oh, nobody told you you got the job. I said, oh, really?
Was it a summer relief or is it a regular gig?
It was a regular gig. They didn't have summer relief. When I came here, they didn't have summer relief guys. They had one guy who did everything.
Well, with that, we hired Trumbull as a summer relief from the Army band, but then he got a job. He stayed here. But you were different. You were hired as an announcer.
I was hired as a TV booth guy because it was me, George Wilson, Trumbull did some of that down there. Johnny Batchelder, remember him?
Oh, very well.
Sure. Well, he was like the
Safeway
king.
Theater. He was great.
He was king of the hill. So that's what we did down at Channel 7. We had regular shift. On the weekends, I had a radio shift. But we filled in for everything. We had a noon news program. I remember John Criswell, Mal Campbell.
He really brings his old names back.
Yeah.
This is in the 60s.
This is in the 60s. I forget who the weatherman. Louis Allen was the big weatherman down there at that time.
He did his whole business in our studio. He was doing weather forecast for shippers way back before anybody. What's the best way to go somewhere you don't get into a storm?
Okay.
He was starting to ship all over the world out of the WMAL studio or offices on Connecticut Avenue.
Yeah.
Louis showed me the whole thing.
Yeah.
But that's the way from. But John was hired because, believe it or not, Ken Hunt, I'm talking to our technician.
I'm over here. I hear you.
Because of his talent. He could do something that was very rare, and thank God the station and the people recognize it. He could do a lot of people, and that was what we needed. We needed somebody like the bench strength. When Harden and Weaver were away, you just couldn't dump that audience on somebody else that had no understanding of the people of the market. You had to understand who you were talking to, and John had that unique talent to understand. He was John Lyon, but he was talking to Harden and Weaver listeners.
That's right. That's right. And that was the whole secret. And especially came true when you worked for Felix.
Oh, my God.
Felix was Felix Grant, for those of you who are
Felix Grant.
wondering who we're talking about, was like the king of jazz radio.
Before there was jazz.
Not just Washington, D.C. Everybody, all the musicians around the world knew who Felix was. And I loved filling in for him because I'm a jazz guy really at heart from Chicago. And went to all the clubs and everything. And so that was a big...
You provided the same mood that Felix provided.
The
mood.
That's what you want to do, though. You could do your own thing, but you want to keep the flavor of the guy you're filling in for.
We had a guy visit us, I'll never forget, from out of town. And he said, I've been in Washington for a week, and I've been in 4, 5, 6 cabs a night. Everybody's got Felix Grant on.
Yeah.
Most of them were dark, were people of color, cab drivers.
Right.
All listened to Felix.
Yeah.
Because he had jazz.
Well, they loved him because Felix knew what he was talking about.
Absolutely.
In this very studio over here, I was up on the air one night for Felix. He was gone for a couple of weeks or something. And I was on the air, and the phone rang. And I thought, well, I wonder who's on the phone. So I picked it up, and it was Count Basie calling from a cruise ship somewhere in the world. I don't know where he was. Just calling up to see how Felix was doing, and he had some extra time. And I thought, wow.
Isn't that amazing? But that was Felix's popularity.
Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible. He among people, that was John. It's so many signals now you can listen to, but then nobody was doing what we were doing, and that was a catering to an audience. That's what the audience wanted. Felix at night. It was a mood. Yeah. And then following him with people who thought Bill Mayhew was sleeping. He probably was, but he carried part of that mood, but he changed it. He became then the only guy you could hear at night was Bill Mayhew. Right. And that was John Lyon when he did Mayhew.
Felix and Mayhew, I think, were musicians' best friend in this town. Nobody had were more loved than them. And they returned that love, too, for all these local
Every
guys.
organization had their own, and the military organization had their own band. But in addition to that, there were people playing gigs all over our town. Mm-hmm. No matter where it was, they were WMAL listeners because they knew they would get what they wanted. They weren't getting something different. It was Felix and Bill. And then Bill milked that leading right into the morning show, which was so important. We had the only reporter on the street, John, as you know.
Larry.
You were here. Now everybody's got them all over, but we had a guy on the street with a camera, worked for 7 and us,
Larry Krebs.
named Larry Krebs.
That's right.
And he was a big part of the overnight show.
He came out one night. We had a storm. We had some pretty good storms when we were down at this location here on Jennifer. And we're filling in for Harden and Weaver that week. And we had a storm and a half. I don't know how much snow came down. And Larry had to come out in his car because I don't know if he had a 4-wheel drive vehicle or something and get me out of my house and climbing over 4 feet of snow, to get down there.
Were you around 4 Corners or something? Were you way out? You went to farm, you said.
No, I was out in Kensington.
Kensington.
Yeah, I've been in the same
neighborhood.
neighborhood.
Nobody could get out that night.
Nobody could get out. But
Krebs did.
He came out and got me and delivered me. But he was quite a guy.
Well, you lived through the years. You remember the WMAL police helicopter.
Yeah.
We had to send it one time to pick up, and he talked about that sitting right in here. Did we not? Mm-hmm. Mark Russell was doing something,
sure.
a fill-in on Sunday.
Sure.
And the helicopter brought him downtown. He never forgot that. He said, who else in the world would do that? I said, well, nobody else had helicopters.
Yeah. Captain Dan we had.
Oh, my God.
I forget all the other guys. We had a guy in Chicago he was a police officer named Len Baldy, worked for WGN. And
that's where we picked the idea up. I listened to that and I said,
okay,
the secret of this program is the cop.
Yeah.
We got to have a cop. Remember Lieutenant Clint Humphreys?
Sure.
He started out as a sergeant. We got him promoted. But having the cop up in the helicopter was very important in those days.
Yeah.
I said, we lent it from WGN. It was a great idea. Well, we're talking to John Lyon about the old times and the good times. And let me tell you, John, these are the good times right now. This is our town. This is Andy Ockershausen.
Technology Truths, brought to you by Geico.
Technology Truths.
Truth. You have 14 login passwords, and you can't remember any of them.
Doug 1. Doug 2. Doug is awesome. Doug is awesome 1, 2, 3.
Truth. It's so easy to switch and save on car insurance at geico.com.
Doug is super cool __ exclamation point 1985. Knew it.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
This is Attorney Mike Collins. Come to my seminar and I'll explain in plain English all you need to know about wills, trusts, taxes, probate, and how to keep your money in your family. I'll show you how to eliminate those dread death taxes and avoid the expense and delay of probate. See how our reservoir trust can protect your family's inheritance from lawsuits and the divorce court. Thousands of your neighbors have already attended. So watch the mail for your special invitation and register now at MikeCollins.com. That's MikeCollins.com.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen. Brought to you by Best Bark Communications.
This is Andy Ockershausen, and Our Town. I'm talking to my mind, a legend in Washington broadcasting, because he was all over WMAL. Nobody could say they hadn't heard of John Lyon. As a matter of fact, they called him Johnny Lyons. I said, no, there's no S there.
Yeah, I have to teach my grandchildren that. My grandchildren, with the last name, I said, it's always no S, okay? Or the S is silent.
No S.
And that's always been a problem.
But John,
not a big one. But.
All the things you did for WMAL stand out. Like, we call you the Swingman because when Tom Gager did his daytime, you had the ability to pick up on what Tom was doing. A lot of people would listen to from out of town would listen to WMAL and say, what is it these people are doing? Because they don't sound alike. They don't have a thread. They're all different. Mm-hmm. And my answer was, yes, they are different. Their audience is different, and they cater to that audience. Fortunately, they're people that care. They care to everybody.
I don't think in the history of local radio that there were too many stations like this one. It had an absolute love affair with its audience.
Oh, absolutely.
And embraced them and included them in stuff that we did here. And they just fell right in with us.
They made us, John, and you being able the ability to be the swingman was not only a smart move, and I think we fell into it because of your talent, but it was a money saving. We didn't have to go hire somebody. The guy that we wanted to do Tom Gager was here. His name was John Lyon. When Felix Grant went to Brazil, he got caught in Brazil, hijacked his airplane, and you were doing the show. There were so many great things I can remember.
We finally got him on the phone too, and he was so terrified. He was quite a guy, but he had some frailties. I'll say that, to say the least. But much admired by all of us.
Oh, you had your musicians and listening to you, and you were a local musician with your own gig. But one of the things that WMAL was noted for was paying attention to the public and to the audience.
That's right.
And our audience loved Christmas Eve at the Kennedy Center.
Oh, yeah.
Just incredible.
Now, where else would you have an opportunity to be on stage at the concert hall at the Kennedy Center for at least 4-hour broadcast on Christmas Eve? It was a gigantic affair, and I imagine even worse to put together. Janice said
we had 600 performers at minimum.
Yeah,
we had about 4 or 5 different set changes. And it was free, and the money went to the Salvation Army, so it was a fundraiser for the Salvation Army, and it was beloved every year. And we did it started off, actually I was telling Andy, it started off in Union Station. Gager did one show in Union Station, and then for some reason we got into a conversation, and it developed into the Kennedy Center, where it was such a big hit the first year. It was a gift to the community, and that's how we really talked about it. It was a wonderful event. And I remember you and your grandson, that little, what's his name, Matthew?
Matt, yeah.
A little sweet little thing, and you had him up singing a song with you. It was wonderful. And you had taken it over, and you did Crabs for Christmas with Baltimore Benny,
That's right.
Ed Walker.
That's
Well,
right.
he had his own show, the Lion and Walker show.
Yeah.
A staple of WMAL. Two talented people doing a show. But we would take you off of that show when somebody went on vacation.
Yeah.
Because you had to do them.
Yeah.
That was what, having that ability, John, is amazing talent.
I like the variety, but I'll tell you, the schedules were really tough. To try to go from getting on at midnight and then getting the next morning at 6 o'clock. I mean, there was a thing called turnaround, which was a few shekels, they threw in the pot. But
you did it, John.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I did it, but I did it. Back to that show just for a second. The Kennedy Center show was absolutely wonderful. And I'll never forget, one of the highlights for me was to get Charlie Byrd to come down and play some Christmas carols. And I'd seen him somewhere, and I met him in Annapolis because he lived there. And
he was Felix's buddy.
Felix's buddy. And we asked him, and I thought, well, I don't know if he's going to do that. Oh, he took right to it. Said, oh, sure, I'll be there.
Loved it.
And he just loved that.
Morris Sullivan.
That's right.
Christmas Eve in Washington. We had her one time. We always had Chester Petronic. He did the Montgomery County Youth Symphony Orchestra and Chorus. And we also had Norman Scribner.
Choral.
Yes, from the Washington Choral Arts Society. And it was a big deal. It was a production that we worked on all year long. It was fantastic. And we used all the talents of all our personalities.
And we had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And John, but you were such a, you were the glue that held it together. But Janice worked like a dog on. I listened to all those shows for all those years. But the groups that would come in, we'd have almost every high school wanting to be on the show. They'd bring their chorus, their whole group downtown.
Yeah,
and they'd provide the school buses. And these kids would show up. And like you said, to be on the stage at the Kennedy Center, a big deal for singers.
Nothing like it. And just as a little lagniappe, a little extra on the Christmas show, Tom Hill, who was then conductor and leader of the City of Fairfax band, they were with us all those shows, and that show continues. I'm still doing concerts with the City of Fairfax band, 2 a year. One in the summertime, it's a kids concert we do outside, and a Christmas concert at Fairfax High School. We've been doing it for, I don't know how many years, over 25 years,
That's a great, well-known group, and we talk about that all the time, about how these high school kids love to help us, and nobody got paid. It was all charity.
That's right.
We had tried to resurrect that. Johnny Holiday had called, and he said he was talking to, I think, Father John Ensler, and he said we were trying to resurrect this to bring it back for a charity for the Catholic Church, and I approached the Kennedy Center about it. We talked about it. We talked about the opportunity, and for some reason it didn't work out. But it's always been right there at the back of my mind.
Right around. It's
because it's such a great gift to the community.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that we discovered so many talented people by doing that too, that have since gone on to other locations. But the best part about it was the staff loved it. Our guys were not making a lot of money. A lot of people could have left WMAL for more money, but they loved what they were doing. And I know that they tried to hire. I know that they were really after Chris Core at WTOP and Trumbull. They wanted to do something with them, but I said, no, we ain't losing them. And of course, Frank and Jack got a lot of people romancing them. Took them to New York a couple of times. They said, we're happy. Why do we want more money? We can't make us happy. Mm-hmm. And they did it.
The joy of working here for all those years has reminded me. I grew up as a radio real fan in Chicago. That's where I grew up, though. And that was the laid-back Midwestern style that you heard on the air all the time on GN and MAQ and those stations, LS. And it was the Don McNeil's Breakfast Club.
Good morning, Breakfast Club, Byrd.
Yeah, and Godfrey, when he was, not such a mean guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he really was.
Network radio.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's what I grew up with, and that's what I was able to get into for that golden period that we had here. It was exactly perfect for what I was.
WIND too.
That's
it was
right.
a powerhouse station, Westinghouse.
Yeah, Howard Miller.
Howard Miller,
Wally
he was
Phillips.
Here for years. Well, John, of all the people that you work for and all the times, is there anything that stands out other than Ken Beatrice and you using the S word? I mean, other than that, it was we were very bland in some ways. I don't think anybody ever heard anything off color as a shtick. It might have been a slip, but we didn't do off color.
No,
none of our people.
No, it was a different. It was a different country back then.
That's
it wasn't
correct.
so mean. There weren't all these divisions and fights going on and stuff. So, I think people heard that coming from our air and subscribed to it. And they were, as far as the S word's concerned, I know it's famous here. I was in that studio.
It wasn't swing.
No, it wasn't swing. It was in that studio right behind Janice there, and I think Byrd was the engineer on duty at the time. And you know who was standing in the control room when I said it? Him, Andy. I looked up and I thought, oh man, did I really
That's
say
it for me.
I figured out, but he just like, he was cool. He didn't say anything.
It happened.
It happened.
It happens with all our guys. But the fact is that you could do something extraordinarily well in your own name, and when you had the gross national product, your band playing in the community, and we decided that we heard about the Doodah Parade in Los Angeles, so we sent Sherry, Sandy, and what's the other young lady?
Suzanne Duncan.
We sent them to Los Angeles to view this band and how they put it together. I mean, the parade, and came back, and we came up with something called the Gross National Parade, which was gross. It was a play on words, but it was a fun parade, and you were a part of it. And the city just responded. We packed M Street, downtown Washington. It was great on Sunday, and all that talent loved it.
Yeah. I think it was the only time we had the band in the back of a pickup truck.
Yes, you did.
And we had a generator so we could have the bass player, electric bass. So I was telling you earlier, I think we played Foggy Mountain Breakdown for about 4 miles. Because people could hear us coming,
Yeah, we started at 18th Street in downtown Washington, ended up in Georgetown at the bottom of 32nd Street with a big, huge party in the lot. But we had college bands begging us to put their fun bands in our parade.
Sure.
It was so different, John. Like you said, there were different times then.
We did a Halloween remote from Georgetown, me and Eddie Walker. And I remember it because the first year we did it, we'd taken a cab downtown from here. We met here at the station and took a cab downtown. And it was packed, It was just, it's probably still a pretty big deal.
It is.
But the broadcast from it is nuts.
Yeah.
We said, oh, we'll do it, but, we don't think this is a good idea. So we got into, they put us fortunately into some bar, which was, we had a window and stuff. And as soon as we got out of the cab, it wasn't 40 seconds until somebody lifted Eddie's wallet.
Oh, no. Oh, I didn't hear
Our
that.
town.
Yeah. You can laugh about it now, but he was in an awful mood for the next 3 or 4 hours.
They hit the poor guy in our town, Georgetown, our town.
That was
band.
on the corner of M Street and Wisconsin Avenue.
Yeah.
And I think at that time it was called Annie Oakley's.
Okay.
It could have been. It was across the street from Nathan's. It wasn't that name of that restaurant or bar.
It wasn't. We didn't
Very
have
long.
sports bars then.
No.
This was a music bar, right? There were a lot of music bars along Georgetown at those days. They're not sports bars, and we jumped on one of them, like we did the bartender's ball, John. We were involved in everything in our town.
I remember that,
and it really paid off. So in the conversation with John, I can tell you that he led this parade because he could do anything, and we didn't overpay you either, did we?
No,
John?
not at all. Not ever.
But you paid us, and you paid us with your talent, and we appreciate it so much. And we'll be back. I want to talk to you about a couple other things, John. This is Andy Ockershout, and this is Our Town.
Hi, Tony Sybil here to tell you about Tony and Joe's and Nick's Riverside Grill at Washington Harbor in Georgetown. Spectacular new restaurants. We've spent a lot of time rebuilding. You'll love it. It's really fantastic. For any information, you can go online to tonyandjoes.com. It'll be a wonderful experience for the whole family. Call 202-944-4545 to make reservations. Everything is fabulous. You got to come down and have some wonderful food.
Hi, I'm Charles Mann. For athletes like me, playing every down in a pro game is like getting in a car accident. After years of playing football in Washington, my body is broken. I've had countless surgeries and joint replacements. I've been looking for a non-surgical treatment since I ended my career. I heard a radio ad for a seminar about alternative treatment. It's called regenerative medicine, which stimulates your own body to heal and repair itself. No surgery, no more pain. That got my attention. I went to a seminar to learn firsthand all about it. Now you too can benefit and receive this treatment. This is the same procedure that pro athletes use to quickly and effectively recover from injury. If you're looking to eliminate your pain and arthritis, or if you thought surgery was your only option, take the first step like I did. Call 410-787-7250. Register for the next seminar and learn more about this breakthrough procedure. Seating is limited. Register now by calling 410-787-7250 and start living life again.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen.
This is Andy Ockershausen, and this is Our Town, and having a wonderful conversation with John Lyon, who is one of the real important people to the success of WMAL. And I remember he was the host of the Harden and Weaver 25th anniversary show at the Kennedy Center, which again brought the whole world to see us, the whole world as we wanted.
Yeah.
The president and the vice president of the United States participated in that show.
Yeah, that just shows you the I would say clout. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean. The influence that the station had over the community.
The listeners.
They want to celebrate with us. Okay, we'll meet you at the Kennedy Center. You know? Where are you going to be? Concert hall, probably. That's the biggest one they got.
We need it all.
So we need. But sure. And then I remember being all back there for something for Felix. If it was an anniversary show or something.
It was We Like to Be in Washington, D.C.
Uh-huh.
Or it could have been his anniversary.
I was there, and he had anybody that was somebody. Dave Brubeck was the star.
Monty Alexander, I think, was there.
Monty Alexander. The guy with the trumpet,
Dizzy Gillespie.
They were all there for Felix.
Yeah.
None of those people got paid, John. Did you know that?
Oh, sure.
It was a free gig. You didn't get paid either. I'll tell you what year that would be, 1979. I remember it vividly.
Okay.
That show at the Kennedy Center with Felix. But, John, being part of WMAL, we've all been a part of your life, fortunately for you and for us. And you had a terrible tragedy in your life in 1975.
That's right.
Which affected WMAL too. I mean, we couldn't feel your pain, but we as a company knew it was a terrible situation you were going through.
Yes, I know that, and I'm always appreciative of the people who are supporting us because it was an impossible situation to comprehend, and it is even to this day. In 1975, March 25th, two of my daughters were abducted from Wheaton Plaza. And hadn't
in
seen
the shopping center.
The shopping center. One was 10, the other was 12. Their birthdays were coming up the next weekend, and Easter was close by. And they disappeared, and we didn't know anything until, well, almost last year, when we had a group of cold case police officers from Montgomery County, 5 of them, maybe more, but the main ones, uncovered some evidence, and we brought this guy to trial, and he's in jail. In Delaware, and he's going to be in jail in Bedford, Virginia.
But you had the support of not only your friends here and our public, our listeners, but Montgomery County really stood tall, as I recall. And they to this day, I'm sure it's pride for them. They never gave up.
They get a special award for that, and we unfolded that just a few weeks ago at one of the Nationals games downtown. There was a big ceremony for them. John Walsh was in town. They had all kinds of people come in for them and give them this award. The unfortunate thing is, even though it's, closure is what you talk about all the time. Well, that's a bunch of, that don't work. It's not closure.
It never will
because
close.
it never does. And we've never found them.
No.
We're still missing. And we know what happened to them.
Yeah.
It's the worst of the worst.
But they're still missing, John. But you being part of this and seeing it, none of us could feel what you felt, of course, but there was a lot of love in this company that stood tall, and I'm so proud of them, and the county and the community, and they help us. What can you do?
That's right.
And that's what we all went through. My Janice went through it more than anybody, how badly she felt and continued to feel. And we love seeing you and Mary in life that you went on. You had 2 wonderful boys. You never gave up. And that's such an important thing to remember for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And they say, well, how do you do it? I don't know.
No. There's no prescription for this.
You keep going. I know, and this probably goes back to the S word, the famous S word.
You can say it, John.
I know I was affected very adversely about that whole thing. And I know I was not such a good guy in some situations back then. And I think it affected my career. I left here in 1990. I got canned in 1990. Well, I was 50 years old at the time. I thought, well, what am I going to do now? This is all I know how to do. So for 2 years after 1990, I floated around at different stations and was very unhappy. Just wasn't, it wasn't the same what I'm used to all these years being here. So, strangely enough, I connected with Montgomery County to work in the Victim Assistance Program. And I was on the air at WGAY on a Sunday morning, and we had little cards to read. We did little public service announcements. They didn't do many commercials over there, but it was still a very popular station.
Absolutely.
But Bob Chandler was the guy who hired me. He called me up. He says, "Hey, we got a weekend spot open here if you want." He says, "It's a lot different from what you've been doing." I said, "Well, that's good. I'd like to do something, get back into
your
it.
Audience.
Get in there." So I was over there for a while, and I picked up this card, and the card said, "Volunteers needed for the Victim Assistance Sexual Assault Program of Montgomery County." I said, that looks pretty...
PSA you're reading, huh?
Yeah. And I looked at it before I read it on the air. I said, that looks interesting. I'll put that one in my pocket. And I didn't read it. I read something else about the Boy Scouts or whatever it was. And the next day, I called the number on the card, and I said, "Hey, I heard your public service announcement yesterday on the radio." I said, "I think I'd like to volunteer." And I talked to a lady named Nancy Jacobstein, and I told her my name, and she didn't tell me, but she knew who I was,
She read your name, sure.
I was a famous victim.
Absolutely.
So she says, "Sure, come on in for an interview." So I did some volunteer, and then they said, "Hey, in a couple of months, we're going to have an opening for part-time victim assistant if you'd like to do it." I said, "Geez, I don't know. I've never worked in an office in my life. I don't even know what to do." She says, "Well, you become acquainted with Montgomery County crime victims, and you go to court with them. You learn about the criminal justice system. We have opportunities for compensation for these people who get, robbed and assaulted and whatever." And I said, "Yeah, that sounds familiar. It sounds like maybe I'd like to do that." So I did. I signed on for a part-time job, and then I forget the date specifically, but anyway, shortly after that, a full-time gig came up, and I took it. And for almost 20 years, that's what I did.
The county, right?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
You're a retiree from the county.
I retired when I was 70, which is 8 years ago. So
that's
what I've been doing.
Life, though. My God, that might have really helped you in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You had so much to give, and you gave it. And we all lived with that. Nobody could live what you lived through, and Mary. It's impossible to explain it. And like you say, it never goes away. It's always there, and it always will be. But you live with it. But we all felt it, John, and that's a strange thing. But it's your notoriety. It's part of that, but that's part of you.
I know.
We get all the baggage, and we love it.
All the baggage, that's right.
The shit word. We've heard that. We can't.
He said that. I didn't say that.
You can say it on the podcast.
The podcast.
Yeah.
It's part of our culture, John. John Lyon, this has been so special to have you here in this place that means so much to us, and it made our lives, and it made your life. Whatever you did in Montgomery County, they knew who you were, and that was so important. Please accept our love, and we give it to Mary and to your boys. Both of your boys are police officers, aren't
One
they?
of them, the oldest, is a police officer. He's going to retire next year.
He's too young.
He's 58. Yeah, Jay's 58. And my younger son lives in Annapolis, and he runs the marketplace over there on the water thing. Right at the end of Main Street down there. And they just reopened that a couple of months ago, he and two partners. So
they're doing great, and Annapolis is exploding.
Yeah, it's really
everything is, John. Well, you've seen it. You've been here long enough to see what's happened to our town. It's grown. If you could go to downtown Washington, I hope you don't have to get caught in that traffic. It's high rise everywhere. John. On the river, both rivers, just incredible.
And they're still building.
Yeah, it's going to happen in Montgomery. Whatever happens with Amazon is going to affect everybody. This whole area.
No, that's for sure.
So, John Lyon, I can't thank you enough for being here and talking to us and making me get tears in my eyes thinking about the good. It wasn't all good, but it was all WMAL.
Yeah, and
that's good.
You don't know how I appreciate the support all the way from the top to the bottom and everybody in between who I worked with here. I've often said to strangers, I said, when I worked at that station, WMAL, it's with the best people I ever met. Everybody, all these guys were just the greatest.
Even the engineers, we had great people.
That's right. I was trying to remember. I don't want to slight anybody, so I'm not going to start naming engineers.
Now they're technical directors, But you were asking about Mike. Did Mike die?
Mike McKay.
Mike McKay.
He died. Yeah. That's what I thought. I told you.
I see Janet Wessels on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
I see Bubble Pot, Gail Granado on Facebook. Vicky Hill.
Bubble Pot.
Yeah. I mean, we all had nicknames.
Marge Kamaki,
and at Bill Mayhew's funeral.
Oh, and it's so sad to see these guys dying.
And Frank Harden.
Yeah.
Uncle Frank.
Oh, sure.
Well, you didn't die, John Lyon. Thank God for that. And will you give our love to Mary and to your boys? And WMAL will always be here for you. Either Janice or I or Ken, somebody in our family. John, Matthews. They're all WMAL. It's a bleed.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you, Janice. Thanks,
Thank you,
Andy.
John.
Thank
we
you,
love
John.
You.
We're so glad you're here.
This is Andy Ockershausen. This is Our Town.
You've been listening to Our Town Season 4, presented by Geico, our hometown favorite, with your host, Andy Ockershausen. New Our Town episodes are released each Tuesday and Thursday. Drop us a line with your comments or suggestions. See us on Facebook or visit our website at OurTownDC.com. Our special thanks to Ken Hunter, our technical director, and WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. And thanks to Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance.